Devastated because the man that she loves is with her cousin. Oh, books. Why do I read them? Hey guys, it's Kat, and today I'm going to be talking about Lark Rising by Sandra Waugh. I was sent this book by the publisher and the author to review this book and to give an honest review. So let's get into this review. First, I'm going to talk about my general feelings of the book, and then we're going to get into the spoilers. So, Lark Rising is set in a world where it's medieval, and the language at first was very hard for me to get into, just because it was a very difficult language. Not because it was just an older language, and I tend to get really slow, or I'm trying to interpret what they're trying to say, and so I'm probably making the language more complicated than what it was. But I really ended up actually enjoying the language because it made the book feel so much more real, because it was set in the time, and I enjoy books that kind of go with the time, the clothing that goes with the time, so that was definitely interesting. The other thing I really enjoyed about this book was the fact it included a map. I do not know why, but I enjoy books that have maps, and this one definitely had a very lovely map that I quite enjoyed, and I love looking back to maps. And I guess maps to me mean that the authors definitely take time in creating their world, what they want their world to look like, where they want their cities, and so that's probably why I like maps. Not that other authors that don't include maps into their world are bad authors, I just really like maps. This book is about a girl named Lark, and Lark lives with her grandma and her cousin Evie. Lark and Evie are definitely very close in this book. They both have the exact same birthmark, which is very significant, and they're like twins. They both share the same feelings, and they are supporters of each other. Their grandmama is a healer in town, and she's very well respected and known for her herbs. Lark, although she is very shy and would like to stay at home, Destiny has another plan for her. She ends up finding 3 signs, and signs are very important in this book. They tell people's destiny, and they tell people what path they're going to take. And when Lark finds these 3 signs, she ends up taking an adventure across the lands of Tarnak into an unknown territory that could possibly get her killed. I loved Lark. I loved her character. I loved her personality. I pretty much loved everything about her. She was very shy, which I quite enjoyed. She wasn't outgoing, as her gift kind of kept her very close to home because she was afraid to touch other people. And she has this not this bubbly personality, but she has this sweet and kind, and she doesn't like hurting anything, and she's very well connected to nature. She's scared that other animals get hurt, and I really loved that about her. I loved that she wasn't outgoing as most characters, because she just wasn't rambunctious, and I found that really refreshing and different, because you get a lot of female protagonists that love to go out on adventures and just take control. And even though that she didn't want to go on this adventure, she knew that it was her destiny and that she needed to take part in that destiny. And this destiny includes the riders of Tarnak, who are supposed to be legendary riders that will help them. And because there's these things called the troughs that are going to be taking over her land, she needs their help. And so she sets off on an adventure to go and see them. So I loved this book. I loved the fact that it had that medieval feel, as I do like that era in a book, and I loved the language once I got a hang of it. I loved the characters, because each of them had their own personality, and each of them definitely had their own story, and you get to hear every single one of those stories. Now I'm going to be getting into the spoilers. If you have read this book, just stick around and let's talk about this book. And if you have not read this book and you would not like to watch the spoilers, then I will see you at my next video. If you have stuck around, that means that you have read Lark Rising and that you want to talk about Lark Rising. So let's get into the spoilers of this book. So Lark is your average girl. Well, as average as you can get, as she has the sight. She's connected to nature, she can see things that are very much a burden of her, and she ends up actually getting 3 signs. The first sign is the origin of her name, the lark birds, and she ends up getting feathers from them. When the first sign comes, she gets really nervous because she knows it's a sign, and everything in this book is literally about signs. The second sign that she gets is a severed hand. This is where the book takes off. Lark gets a severed hand, and a fox actually is the one that brings it to her, and she takes it back to her grandmama. Grandmama asks her to touch the hand and see the past, and she sees an old man from their village being attacked by this thing called the Troth, an evil creature that lives in the dark woods. To them, because there's something, these Troths, I guess, do something that is kind of goes against their nature. The third sign is when Grandmama decides to gather everyone in the courtyard of the village, and they talk about what happened. And everyone's very quiet during this. And when it comes time, they make the decision that they need to go find the Riders of Tarnak, because the Riders of Tarnak have always, I guess, protected their village against the Troths, which the Troths have attacked their village many times before. So everyone gets in line, and the person that gets a special rock has to go on this adventure. And, well, I don't know if this is cheating, but all of a sudden a crow out of nowhere comes down, swoops down, picks the correct rock, and drops it right into Lark's hands. And I don't know, if that's destiny to you, then that's destiny telling her that she needs to go on this vacation, this adventure of sorts. So Lark sets off at dawn, making a promise to her cousin that she's not going to be able to keep in the end. And it is just, oh my gosh, why do people make promises sometimes that they can't keep? Because this promise is a very big promise. So Lark sets off into the lands of Tarnak. There is the evil parts of Tarnak, and there's the good parts of Tarnak. And they say not to go into the hills of Tarnak because the riders kill anyone on sight. And boy, does she find that out. Because just as a guardian is about to kill her, a horse steps in and decides to save her. And it's not just any horse, it's the white horses. Now, horses in Tarnak are very important, and a horse choosing its owner is like a werewolf in printing. And this horse follows her around. She believed that Tarnak riders were supposed to be old, and they're not. They're all very young, handsome men. And I'm like, oh good lord, I can't handle another group of handsome men in books. So she goes with them, and she ends up going into the foothills of Tarnak, and she sees this kingdom. And this kingdom is big, and it's huge, and it's beautiful, and it's surrounded by waterfalls and forests, and it's gorgeous. Lark ends up meeting the king of Tarnak, and he tells her a prophecy, and it's about a girl who gets 3 signs, and she is the guardian of the life amulet. And all of these life amulets were actually stolen by the evil witch lady called Emera, and it's you know, a big deal. These amulets protect life. They're the balance of life, and if you don't have them, they create chaos, they create natural storms. It just creates a lot of problems, and it's an unbalance in Earth. And this king is explaining it to her. Garion, the one that kind of almost kills her, yeah, the one that she dreams about killing her, and he refrains from killing her. They have a connection, a very deep connection, and it's oh my gosh, it's a great connection, and this is what like drove me through the book so fast. It was the connection between Lark and Garion, and Lark tries to refrain from falling in love with him because of the promise she made to Evie. It's just, oh my gosh, the connection is there, and the romance is building, and it's just so beautiful. So much chaos, and Lark decides to go to the evil mountains to get the amulet. And along the way, Garion is with her, and they meet this thing called Twig. He's a tree gnome, and he is supposed to give her 3 gifts that will help her along her journey. And it's quite an amazing journey with Twig, because he is just like a little character. He made my day. He was such an adorable character, and he was so sweet. And he even noticed the attraction between Lark and Garion, and it was just, I just loved him. He was so adorable. Garion actually ends up getting left behind as Lark travels these mountains because Garion decides to give himself up, and this is where I thought, oh my god, he's gonna die. You guys just professed your love to each other, and you're gonna die. So this adventure continues, and she goes up into the mountains, and she finds the amulet, but there's the evil witch called Emera there. And the reason why Lark actually ends up seeing Garion kill herself is because Emera can shift into people, and Emera tries to kill her with her, with the sword. And it doesn't happen. Emera actually evaporates into thin air, and Lark ends up getting the amulet. Lark decides to go back to Tarnak where the king is dying, and because the Guardian of Life is technically the next one to the throne, she ends up becoming the Queen of Tarnak, and Garen and her fall in love, and it's a happily ever after, and it's a the end part. But it's not the end. That's the whole thing. You got Evie that's missing. You got a rider of Tarnak that's looking for Evie. You have 3 amulets still missing in this world. And you have a queen that's just gotten to the throne that needs some guidance. So I am so looking forward to this next book. I was so happy to get this book because I've been waiting for this book since it came out. And it was so good. It was just so good. Oh, it was like a refreshing read because I just finished. Thank you, Sandra, for sending me this book so I can review it. I truly enjoyed it. Alright guys, that is all I have for you today. Exciting news first. I am going to Mockingjay Part 1 tonight, so you will have a movie review on that in the next few days. I am so excited to see that. I've been waiting for this day all year. I will see you guys on my next video. Remember to subscribe and to like and to comment on this video because I would love to hear your thoughts on this book. Hasta luego!